Hey everyone, it's Orange. Welcome back to another video. This video is very strange for my channel, isn't it? It's one of those random, obscure Summoner's War topics that's very random to talk about and very random to summarize briefly, but I think these videos do have some value to them. I think people can learn quite a bit in a short period of time. These are not my forte by any means. I have actually spent the past 4 hours, maybe longer, trying to record this video for you guys. I hope this is the take. I'm going to try to summarize this in the most basic terms as possible when we talk about how I make 6 stars. How do I make so many? That is the question I got today from Sebastian. This same exact question was asked to me about 6 months ago by someone, I forgot who it was. I deeply apologize to that person because 6 months ago, that person, whoever it was who asked me, how do you make so many 6 stars, wanted a video. I believe they requested one. I think they were like, it's not that big of a deal to make one, but me, I can talk for hours about every single intricacy that goes into how I make 6 stars. It depends on what stage of the game you're at. It depends on so many different things. Well, not so many different things, but if I think about my past history as I've been progressing through Summoner's War, the way I do EXP boosters, the way I make 6 stars has changed over time. The Unknown Scrolls just got changed, so there are some kind of milestones where it got changed pretty drastically. I stopped buying the Rainbow Mon from the guild shop a long time ago. It's kind of creeping back into the question, but I don't think it's quite there yet. It's creeping though, because it might end up being quite efficient. I still haven't decided to go back and do that yet. I always try to make subtle changes with things. Hold on, we gotta do some powering up here. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have such a hard time talking if I have to power stuff up. So, here we go, I guess, with the video. Summoner's War is basically a game where you're in one of 3 phases, and you're kind of just in them. I think Summoner's War is a very natural cycle, so day to day, month to month, this cycle will be pretty consistent. It's pretty much like a whirlpool, I guess we could say. You guys know those pools, like, they're usually at, like, public pools? I don't know, you know those fancy pools that go like around in a circle, and then sometimes you sit in a raft and then it just pushes you around, or you can just swim and then you go around. So that's kind of like Summoner's War. You're just in a certain phase of the game, and those 3 phases I think equally happen at all stages of the game for the most part. Like, probably the balance tips a little bit depending on where you are, what stage of the game you're at, but for the most part I feel like it's pretty consistent. So those 3 stages are, you're either doing TOA and or TOA hard. You're clearing it to get those crystals from it, because crystals is your fuel to continue playing Summoner's War. Yeah, that's just how you play the game, right? So you're either doing TOA and or TOA hard, which is what I usually do every single time after it resets. I do it as soon as possible, just because that's my payday, boys. You know, gotta get that motherfucking paycheck from Comtua so we can keep playing this game. So I do TOA and TOA hard. Then after that, the rest of the month, because TOA resets monthly, the rest of the month is I'm either doing an EXP booster, or I'm farming runes, or I'm doing R5, because technically that's gems and grindstones, isn't it? I've only started to farm R5 recently. I didn't, oh shoot, that one's max level. I didn't farm R4 at all. Personally, I would not suggest anyone to farm R4. I just don't think it's a good idea. I think it's inefficient, but everyone plays the game differently, right? I haven't looked into the math exactly, because my R5 team was pretty solid, but I still feel like you can find farmable options to replace it. Fire Panda, Darien frontline, my backline was Hua, Colleen, Lisa, Chisoon. So I do feel like there are some farmable options, but I could be wrong, right? Maybe I just got blessed with one of those kind of strong R5 teams. But yeah, that's kind of off topic, so let's go back to the topic. Like I said, with the whirlpool example, I feel like Com2uS has paced this very well. I don't feel like I'm really forced to do anything. Maybe some people kind of get confused and they don't do things exactly like I do, so they're kind of confused because they're like walking the wrong way in the whirlpool and they're like, this is fucking hard. How are you making so many 6 stars? And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I'm just going around the pool. You know, I'm using my EXP boosters. I'm farming runes and we're just going along, and Com2uS, you know, maybe I'm vibing with Com2uS and we're just chilling in the whirlpool on our rafts or whatever. The rafts, you're not in the water though. It's kind of nicer when your body's actually in the water. I don't know. You guys can let me know. Maybe some of you guys go on those like float trips where you just float down a river. I've never done one of those. I'm not that hick, but I know some people who are. So, okay, so pretty much what I do is I farm runes the majority of the time, and I just let my fodder pile up. Rainbowmon, when the Unknown Scrolls did get changed, I had to start buying the 2-star Silver Star monsters from the shop over here. Another important thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about buying 2-star Silver Star monsters from the magic shop is that if you guys have access to a countdown timer, also known as an egg timer, and depending where you are in the world, it might also be called like a rice timer. I have no idea what people call it. It's just a countdown timer. If you have access to one of these, I would suggest using them. This tool became even more important now that the Unknown Scroll drop rate got completely fucked. You really do need to buy quite a few Silver Star monsters from the magic shop, so if you have access to a tool like this, I would use it. I've been using this even before the Unknown Scrolls got fucked, just to remind myself to check the shop, because I wanted to make sure I was buying the mysticals, the light and dark pieces, the legendary pieces, and the summoning stones. So if you check the shop more, you have more chances at getting those things. So yeah, if you have access to a tool like this, I would definitely use it. There are none here. The 2-star silver monsters are pretty cheap. The gold star monsters are about 25,000 mana, just like this Viking, but the silver stars are about 11 to 12,000 mana. And you guys will have to watch your mana. The whole mana discussion is another beast itself. This is just one discussion video. Mana does kind of come into play here because you will be buying more monsters than usual. But once again, I've just been going down the Com2uS, like I haven't had any problems with mana. I used to when I was earlier on in the game. I'm sure you guys could look back at my Path to Decency episodes and find some episodes where I was down to like 1 million to 2 million mana. That was like red zone, danger zone. I had to drop $10 on Summoner's War at some point pretty early on to get a rune for Theomars. It was a slot 4 crit damage rune. If only I had saved 1 million to 2 million mana at all times, I would have just been able to buy that rune, but I was stupid. So I did have mana problems before. I did buy the mana tree or whatever it's called. Mana Fountain is what it's exactly called. We can take a look at it. But if you actually do the math on it, I think it's only like 20,000 extra mana per week. And that's like one R5 run. So it's hard to say how that's really impacted me over this long period of time. Feel free to go and do the math yourself again, because that number could be wrong, but that's what I recall the number being. So I do not have the fairy tree purchased, which would make the mana fountain more efficient, but overall I don't really know how much they help. Like, I don't know, I kind of forgot. So back to the 6-star discussion, right? I'm sure you guys know about, well, maybe you don't. Hold on, let me stop saying that. So, I don't buy any more EXP boosters from Com2uS, but I did at some point. I felt like it was necessary when I was earlier on in the game. It's hard for me to say if I would have done the same thing if I played the game again. Maybe I could have found a way to get around it, but when I played through this playthrough, I've only played the game through once, or like this is my only playthrough. I haven't like re-rolled or started over or anything. I did feel like it was necessary to buy the 3-day boosters with crystals. So I would buy those and then pretty much just like level stuff for 3 days. And then eventually I just kept adjusting my plan based on what was going on. If I needed stuff, if I didn't need stuff, if something went bad, then I would try to fix it. So recently, ever since they changed the Unknown Scroll drop rate, a small adjustment I made, so one of my boosters went pretty bad. Like, it didn't go bad, but my Unknown Scrolls kept dropping down, and I was like, I'm not getting any more. At this point, I would have had like 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 Unknown Scrolls, But I have 400. Why are they all disappearing? Why am I not regaining them faster than I'm using them? Oh, it's because Com2uS changed the drop rate, right? So what I did was, the tiny change that I did, I decided to farm runes more to get more Rainbow Mon. So I stocked up on a fuck ton of Rainbow Mon, put them all in storage. I had so many Rainbow Mon, and that didn't exactly work. So I did a booster with those. It went better. My Unknown Scrolls kind of stabilized, but they were still dropping because I think I still wasn't getting enough things to level up those Rainbow Mon, because I was getting 2-star and 3-star Rainbow Mon. And I had nothing to power up the 2 stars. I still wasn't getting enough Unknown Scrolls to level those 2 stars up, the 2-star Rainbow Mon. So I started asking people. I was like, hey, what are you doing? Everyone started to say, buy the Silver Star, 2-star Rainbow Mons from the shop. I started to do that, and everything's been stabilized so far. The only issue is my mana going to drop? If it does, then I will have to probably just ease back up on it and buy less Silver Star monsters from the magic shop, but my mana's been totally fine. So the whole mana discussion's a whole nother beast. It depends on what stage of the game you're at for mana. Me personally, I don't plus 15 runes that often. I really don't find any 2, 4, or 6 upgrades for my monsters. I probably should look a little bit harder, but even runes like this one on Ritesh are somewhat hard to replace, so I don't plus 15 things. Even if I have a damn good rune, I will just leave it at plus 12. I'm trying to find one here. Let's look somewhere else. Oh gosh, all these runes are kind of ugly. Can't find a single one. Okay, well, I can't find one, but even if I find a damn good rune that's a slot 2, 4, or 6, I won't plus 15 it until I need it. So that kind of helps, because you never know, one might end up sitting in your storage forever. Like, I'm pretty sure I have a lot of runes kind of like this. Like, this rune might be a R5 monster rune, maybe. But I already have better options or something, I don't know, so it might just end up sitting in here forever. This one, I don't know why this one is powered up. This one I was potentially thinking about putting on a cleave team, like a will shield cleave team, but I don't know, it's probably just plus 13 because, you know the daily mission over here where you have to power a rune up or whatever every single day, like 3 times, I don't know how, yeah, pretty sure it's like 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. So that rune probably got to 13 because of that, I don't know. So that was that discussion. Oh gosh, guys, this is a really big one with how I make 6 stars. Let me just rapid fire go through this list for you. We're 11 minutes in, we're too far in. Okay, so here's the rapid fire list of any tips or tricks I have to making 6 stars. Oh shoot, we just fucked up again with the max level. Okay. Use 2 rounds of rep monsters at midnight every day server time. 0001, that would be 1 minute. You guys know, midnight, your reps reset, so if possible, pop your booster before then, so you can use 2 rounds of reps. You use them, midnight hits, you use them again. Next tip, there is an efficiency post out there that I will link down below to you guys, going over which scenario is most efficient. Aiden is 4% more efficient than Feynman, so depending on your run times, depending on the goals for each booster, every single booster I do, none are the same. Sometimes I only do 2 hours, sometimes I do 8 hours, so depending on what you're doing, depending on how like full throttle you're going, that'll depend how fast. If you have more than one farmer, figure out which one's faster, do it. And then for me, Aiden, I have 2 farmers, one for Feynman, one for Aiden, but since Aiden's 4% more efficient, I do it, and I think right now I can't even use my Feynman farmer because she'd be too slow. It's Soha, so pretty much I'm pigeonholed into doing Aiden, and it just so turns out Aiden is 4% more efficient. So I'll link that whatever it's called, efficiency post for these different scenarios for you down below. I don't know if it's up to date. I think it is, though. I'm not sure. Like I said, every EXP booster is different depending on my situation. If I'm like testing things, like if I'm like, oh gosh, all my unknown scrolls are dropping for this next booster, I shouldn't do as many refills, then that's exactly what I'll do. So make sure you know what your goals are or whatever. Always be kind of conscious of your unknown scrolls and stuff like that. And your crystals especially, I do not like using crystals on EXP boosters. I still do them though, because over time I felt like this pace is really good. It allows me to keep enough fodder in storage, and it allows me to 6-star what I need to 6-star. I don't like 6-starring anything that I won't end up using. I've used Tyron a shit ton. I've started to use Shimate more. Shimate doesn't even have any runes. Freya as well. I will not 6-star things unless I need to. So I feel like the pacing that I've done my boosters whenever Comptuos gives me one has been really good. So depending on how you're approaching your booster depends on how many crystals you use to refill through it. I already talked about buying 2-star silver monsters from the shop. You should definitely do that. But if your mana's dropping, if you're an early game player, that might not be so viable to you. You will have to figure it out, I guess. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have any more info on that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. Okay, so here's another thing. Every booster I try to do some amount of work on it, so I always like to stock up with enough fodder in storage to make a new 6-star. If necessary, that's kind of what I found is good. I kind of feel like Comptuos doesn't give out enough boosters, and sometimes it helps to have another booster ready, because every time you 6-star a monster, you get a free 12-hour booster immediately. So I feel like that's always good to have. That's what I've pretty much always done, and I just like doing that. I feel like it's really good. So here's all my fodder at the moment, and I'd always like to 5-star max level things that could potentially be 6-stars. So Dark Assassin, Joltan, Gemini, Mantura, Amir. I think those are pretty much the only ones. I've been thinking about the Fire Mummy recently, so I just have them waiting. The only useless 6-star that I made was Escher. I did not use him. I think he was the only monster that I 6-starred and then just did not use afterwards, which is not good, right? All these other monsters I've used at least a little bit, usually more than a little bit. So yeah, I just have these. I don't 6-star anything unless I need it, because good runes are really hard to come by, and I feel like you can get pretty far in the game with runing up very few monsters. Okay, we're not going to rapid fire anymore. We kind of started to slow down. Okay, make sure you have enough free time during your 12 hours. Sometimes I try to plan them out, sometimes I don't. If you aren't going to even do your EXP booster, then at least try to do 2 rounds of rep monsters, or at least 1. That's probably better than letting it go to waste. Mana, I already talked about. There was one other thing that I'm not really sure about, which is I saw on Reddit, when I used to do Famine, I think if you level a level 0 2-star monster up to level 19 in Famine, you can power it up with a 1-star monster. So for example, let's say I was doing Famine and this monster was level 19, then I could just do this and get it to level 20. But if you did another Famine run with that monster, it's inefficient because it gets like way too much EXP than it needed. So I'll link that Famine post down below. It might apply to more instances, but I don't do things like super efficiently like that. Like, I don't even know if it applies to Aiden. If it does, I haven't been doing it because I'm lazy and I haven't looked back at that post. Also, some people were telling me that they level up 2-star monsters with 1-stars, but I just don't think that that's very good. I did not look at the math myself, I did not calculate it, but this chick only gets to level 6, and I think she gets to level 7 right away if I just do one Aiden run. Let's see. We can actually test. And I think it'd be better to feed 1-stars to 1-stars. If my unknown scrolls were getting really low, I would have had to make the adjustment to start leveling up 1-stars in Aiden or whatever, or I would have had to not do as many EXP boosters or farm runes more or something like that. But yeah, I think that was it. Let's just see how this run turns out so I can see how many levels she gets after this. And then I'll link that 2-star, like that feeding thing about Famine down below to you guys. So that's like a small thing you can do. And those are pretty much all my tips. So the video is going to be over after we do this run, 18 minutes. I went a little bit longer than I thought I would, but there's just so much to talk about. So pretty much to summarize, for the most part, I've just kind of gone with the flow, and things have kind of worked out. The only kink that I ran into was Comtuous changing up the, oh shoot, okay, yeah, I can refresh. I'm just lazy. I want to see what she is. Level 6. So what was she before? Level 8 or something? I don't know. Okay, well, yeah, the only kink was the unknown scrolls because it was just so out of, like, nowhere and pretty drastic. Well, at least I felt that it was drastic because I had to change up my plan, kind of. But for the most part, over the course that I've played the game, I've always made tiny changes to how I do my EXP boosters. Like, yeah, so that was the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Catch you guys later.